We're going to have a great video, man.
We're going to do such a good job.
Me and you together all day.
We're going to kill it.
We're going to kill it.
Yep.
We're going to talk North Dallas 40.
Oh, wait, we're talking that one?
Yeah.
I got to watch it. Now that's out of the way.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
I am Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks again for finding us, watching, and for our loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. Hey, you can follow the show on Twitter and on Instagram. Heck yeah, we have a Patreon. Check that out for some great deals and opportunities to tell us what movies we can review here on the show. Of course, we'll give a shout out to you for future episodes. Both Kyle and I are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. Check out that webpage for critics reviews as well as ours. And today we're talking about a sports movie. We rarely talk about sports movies, but I think their timing's right. It's football season. Let's talk North Dallas 40.
All right. Veteran football player Phil Elliott has a real problem with melding his skills with the team's overall goals. Clashes with the coaches and a new romance cause Phil to question whether he is still really wanting to play and if he'd even be able to walk away.
So the timing is this film came out in 1979, but I think it's prominent. The book came out in 1973, and that's kind of why I want to do it now, because the book is 50 years old, written by Peter Gent.
Yeah.
He really was a professional football player. The book is kind of his accounts of being a professional football player for the Dallas Cowboys in the late 60s. And he would pass away in 2010. They were kind of like when he passed away in 2010, I think 2011, that there was kind of this resurgence. Let's go back to see, the book and everything, because he's actually more popular in the book than anything he did on the field.
Did you read the book at all?
I've not read the book. I've done summary notes. It's very dark and grim, far more grim than the movie.
The book is much, from at least the differences that I was able to find looking up on the web. I was like, oh, wow, that would have been.
Yeah. And of course, I love noirs. I love let's get grim and doomy and gloomy. I should read the book.
Up next for book reports, no?
Yeah, if we ever do another show that's book reports, I'll do that one. All right, so it's directed by Ted Kotcheff. You should know Ted as well as you, because he's did Uncommon Valor as well as First Blood.
And of course, Weekend at Bernie's.
Bernie's.
That's how you know he's really able to cross the streams of the various genres.
It written also, because Ted Kotcheff written it, but also helped along was Frank Evans. He used to be a Paramount executive. He's also a prominent executive producer for the Godfather films. So when you produce those good movies for Paramount, you can get a higher seat upstairs.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and he produced it as well as helped write it. He also wrote the screenplay for Mommy Dearest. So that came out in 1981. Mommy Dearest.
About that time,
yeah, about Joanne Crawford. All right, so it does have fresh faces for the film. At the time, there are stars that we go back and like, oh yeah. But when it came out, it stars Nick Nolte. This is after he did the great movie The Deep, which is, if you ever saw The Deep?
No, I haven't.
The Deep is another book by the same guy who did Jaws.
Oh, yeah, Peter Benchley's. Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's another Peter Benchley book. It's one of those that Jaws was a big hit. Let's find something else that he wrote. Yeah, he wrote this. We'll make another movie. So that was the launch pad for Nick Nolte's career, was the film The Deep. And then he did this film, which is another catalyst to his stardom.
Yeah, it was really funny seeing, I did some looking at, I always watch Siskel and Ebert to kind of like clear my head. And Siskel and Ebert, they recovered North Dallas 40, and they specifically called out Nick Nolte's like weight gain for the role. And I found that very interesting. They were like, yeah, he's not pretty boy Nick Nolte anymore. And I was like, there was a time when he was pretty boy Nick Nolte.
Probably why he took the other path. He listened to the critics. He's like, I don't want to be a pretty boy anymore. Okay, it also starts Mac Davis, who plays the quarterback Seth Maxwell. Mac Davis, this is his first time in a movie being an actor, because he used to be a country singer-writer. He was hired from Nancy Sinatra's record label, Boots Enterprises. Of course, Boots Enterprises. He wrote songs for there, but some of the songs he wrote would go eventually to Elvis Presley recording them. So Mac Davis wrote the song In the Ghetto, A Little Less Conversation, and I think, if I remember right, another one called Memory. But he was a very successful country singer, country writer before he became an actor.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of, when we'll get to my review, kind of blends with it. He kind of slides in there like it's natural for him.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd asked me if he was a professional singer or a professional player beforehand, I probably would have gone with player. You know, like if I hadn't known, I'd be like, yeah, I bet he probably played football because he does blend into that group pretty well. He's also not one of those people, though, that you have the easily recognizable face.
No.
You know, like known at the time, but much less known now. And you kind of mix him in with, yeah, I could believe that he's one of like kind of the stunt cast of getting a real football player. Turns out he was actually not too bad with the vocals.
Yeah, Mac Davis never really in film skills really overarch with his. He's always kind of just let it slide, man. Just let it go, roll. All right, rolling out the cast, you got Charles Durning. You recognize him from a lot of De Palma movies that you.
Charles Durning is the kind of actor who you forget that he's in a movie until you see him pop up, and that's not a denigration. Exactly right. He just kind of fits into the cast really nicely. The only two Charles Durning performances I ever call out was Doc Hopper from the Muppet movie and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Like, those are the only times I think of Charles Durning, and I think, oh my God, those are the movies. Everything else, it's like when we watch Sisters. I was like, oh, damn.
All right, back to my notes here. Daphne Coleman. Of course, you recognize Daphne Coleman. He's Golden Dagger. He was also 9 to 5. And then real-life professional football player. He was playing for the Oakland Raiders, John Matzak. He plays OW, another one of those offensive linemen. He's kind of peppered in there a little bit. He's feeling like drinking from the cauldron at the party, toga outfit, but also in the locker room. Running on the cast, you have J.D. Spradlin, who always plays these salty, very almost, if he was playing movies in the 80s, would be kind of the salty head CAO guy, but he's playing the coach here in this movie.
Yeah, probably most known for, I guess, The Godfather Part 2 and Apocalypse Now. His senator, like smaller scenes that he kind of pops up with Francis Ford Coppola. I always remember him from Clifford, which is an underrated comedy. I'm going to keep saying it as long as people keep denigrating Martin Short.
There's not a lot of female cast in it, but we have Daryl Hayden. She was actually on the cover of Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Edition in 1973, and that kind of launched her career. She's probably a model before that. There's, of course, the lady who plays Charlotte, and this is kind of the only really movie she ever really did. She went on to do a little bit of television, but then kind of faded away. I
know she'd done some work with Woody Allen, and I can't really place, I guess, specific performances. I don't have a lot of Woody Allen in my background as far as film going goes, and he's not someone I really seem too interested in checking out now. So, but she definitely has like bit parts. She's popped up in things, but never really to the level of this role.
All right, just running a little few notes of that background. Cinematography is by Paul Loam, who did cinematography. I think he really hit it out of the park while we're working with Altman with Nashville, which is very like a almost like you did with French Connection, make a documentary kind of a style film.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, this is where the action and kind of like tilt a little bit, almost like you're participating in what you're seeing as a film.
Well, that's what Altman tended to do. It's also, it kind of lended some realism to North Dallas 40, which I think is something that Ted Kotcheff had done with First Blood. There was kind of this like more restrained visual palette to the film, and letting the actors and kind of the over the top.
Oh, there's an attention why they were gray.
Yeah. But I also think that more than anything, Paul was able to kind of meld to the style of the film that he was working on pretty well, because another like left field choice for him was he did the cinematography for High Anxiety, Mel Brooks' take on Alfred Hitchcock, so that cinematography has a little bit of Mel Brooks and a little bit of Alfred Hitchcock. Like he blends in some pretty good notes from the people that he's homaging from.
Right, and one of the things what came out, why it's so successful and people enjoyed about this movie, was actually the very believable football action in the movie, and actually have the camera on the field to witness it. It's not like we prominently see in the 50s, 60s of newsreels or stock footage or something, but actually real action of stunt people playing football and have the camera in there was a shock. I think the only time we really got, Slapshot does it too, on the ice action, but then this is really something like football. We actually got to see it. Also, a little snippet of not so much in the stands, but really in the mess of it.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting viewpoint of why people enjoy the movie. Is because they actually showed real life football and believable football. So going on for the background, this movie is probably you can saturate it with, because we got bombarded with the anti-hero protagonist. A lot of late 70s, so you have like Death Wish, you have Dog Day Afternoon. I would even sign Carrie as an anti-hero protagonist.
Yeah.
Dirty Harry, of course. You got Rollerball, which is very similar. James Caan is fighting the man, fighting the system just to be successful.
Looking good in Blades too.
Yeah. And I think this is kind of the premise of the story is Mexican with the 70s is trying to buck the system and, you know, the anti-hero is trying to do it, but he's not a glorified hero. It's not somebody that you can idolize. Not like something like Luke Skywalker was a very polished and clean, super, like a hero.
Yeah.
But these are more anti-heroes. They're flawed and somebody you don't really like to, but they're a champion that are fighting the system.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note that, I mean, Nick Nolte rarely played likable heroes.
Yeah.
And I mean, the only one that came to mind when I was trying to think of it was literally, you mentioned Star Wars, his character in The Mandalorian, which he voiced. I mean, that's really the only time that I ever could quickly pull out a likable, you know, heroic character from Nick Nolte. Yeah. He was kind of grungy. He was kind of anti-hero at best. And he tended to embody a little bit of that he's an asshole flavor. Like,
yes,
that's what's at play here. And we always say, of course, you know, if you're not likable, you at least have to be interesting. And so
right.
That's the case.
Especially for his character film Elliot, he kind of doesn't want to. He wants to be part of the group, but he wants to be outside of the group. He goes to the party. He just God, I'd have to make an appearance. Not really enjoying it. It's always over him. But also, like in practice, he's not part of the group. The only person he corresponds with is a star quarterback, which kind of keeps his stock with the team. That everybody, all right, you keep the quarterback happy, we'll keep you on the team. Understand at the time, I just want to make a footnote. When the book was written and what their champion is, there was no like free agency in pro football. Pretty much if you had a contract with one team, they could hold that contract. The owners could do anything they want. They could trade you, cut you, or whatever. There was no negotiating of a free agency to like a portal of maybe some other team wants me and I can go talk to them. That would never come into fruition to probably 1993. There was a strike in 1974, a year after this book came out, and this book's kind of established. Pretty much you're treated like cattle. And it had the speech at the end.
Yeah.
And then there was another strike in 1987 where conditions got a little bit better, and it wasn't until free agency in 1993. Nowadays you look at it as kind of a little bit like hyper masculinity.
Yeah.
I mean, a little more prism of different eyes for the different times.
Yeah, and I think, you know, people looking at it who maybe aren't viewing it through the lens of the time period when it was made are going to see things that are going to be at times hard to swallow. I mean, because it was of the time. That doesn't make it okay today, but you have to understand viewing it through that lens.
Right. The homophobic jokes, the dick jokes that were submitted there to get a laugh are now we view as more just input of their hyper masculinity society.
But then you also have casual racism. You have the treatment of women, which is very much on the forefront within 10 minutes of the film.
Getting very close to super rapey there.
Yeah,
and it's supposed to be played as a joke.
The film's opening party scene, I guarantee, was kind of replicated for Anchorman's opening party scene because every guy in both those scenes, I think.
That's good. I didn't think about it as the Anchorman.
And that's the film that kind of looks at the time period of this and pokes fun at it and talks about how kind of silly and crazy those times were. And you really see it in this film. It's very much a time capsule of that time.
Yeah. So I think I got to cover enough for the background. I want to get to my review, and I'm going to try to relate this movie with The Dark Knight Rises. I'm just kind of curious because this is Kyle's first time seeing this, and he's not really critiqued a lot of sports movies. So I just want to overall let's break the ice with Kyle. What do you think of North Dallas 40?
So you have to view my thoughts on the film break down into like specific sections of the film.
Yeah.
You know, I think Nick Nolte's story, I'm very interested in what he's going through because I think if you're not likable, you have to be interesting. And I do think his character is rather interesting. The relationships in which he has, his striving to be the star, but also wanting to be part of the group. And
it's
not
a little bit
being able to
inflated.
reconcile the
I
two.
think the thing about it's a little more. I think he's not as good as he thinks he is. He thinks he's the star player, right?
Yeah.
But he's not the star wide receiver. There are other opportunities.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's almost like he's viewed as the lesser of two evils. You know, there's somebody on the team who's doing worse than him. There's someone on the team who's not as professional as him, and that he can always be kind of not the worst, and therefore, in his mind, the best. I like the character story for that.
Yeah.
A bunch of the other like side characters, I feel like they didn't get enough development for me to really strive for them. I love Bo Svensson. on film. I didn't get to see enough of his kind of characterization in the film for me to really, really appreciate what his character was doing.
He plays the out of control, mad, keep him on a leash, control dog.
Yeah, and I wanted to dive deeper into that. I just didn't feel like we got that very much.
Yeah, like Seth Maxwell says, he's the kind of guy you want him on your team.
Yep.
And deal with the chaos with him on your team rather than fighting against him. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as Mac Davis goes, not great, not terrible. He's kind of just passing by in the film. I don't think he's doing anything that's like disappointing, but you can definitely tell this is like first acting role, first time in front of the camera up front. Serviceable. As far as the football scenes go, I think the football looks great when they're actually playing the game. Yeah. I do criticize that. I know the film is kind of about the lifestyles outside of that, but I would have liked to have seen more of that football because I think Ted Kotcheff does a very good job of capturing that feeling of being on the field. And I do think that it works. I just almost wanted more of it. I know it's not really meant to be in the film, but I wanted more.
Yeah. Overall, it's not supposed to be a rah-rah, cheer football movie that you kind of watch popcorn for. It's more set to the reality of this is what happens. It's people that are dealing with the pain of something that they can enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. Right. I was going to tie in with Dark Knight Rises. All that movie is about pain.
Yeah.
Every character is about pain. This is also about the pain of almost enjoying the pain of doing this. Mm. To the point that you get so delusional that you, like Mac Davis says in the movie, I'm getting to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I rip my elbow and it's kind of enjoy it. Yeah, I got that. And it's how you transition from, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
But some people don't think of the end game playing this sport, like Phil Elliott. I don't think he understands. I know I want to do this, but right now I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
And there's no thinking 2 moves ahead. It's always the next week's game or the season. It's never thinking about you're going to be done with this eventually. And I think that's a hard pill to swallow because I understand they've probably been playing football since they're kids and they have no other avenue. They don't think about another avenue of a life after football. Even though he set up the ranch. We like to think of I'm talking about the ending, we like to think that maybe they get together at the end, they have the ranch and they're doing horses and stuff like that, but we don't know. We don't know if he's going to go somewhere
Much
else.
like the character doesn't know.
Yeah.
There's a great 30 for 30 documentary that talked about pro athletes and how more often than not they are broke by the time they get out of their actual sport, which is crazy when you think about the amount of money that's being thrown around here. But being a pro athlete is very much similar to being a model. There's a shelf life to what you're going to accomplish, and in some and the punishment to your body. If models, it's almost some keeping a specific weight, keeping a specific look. Football players, it's going to be getting the crap kicked out of you on a regular basis. There is a shelf life to how much the body can take, and then you're going to live with all of this pain, but you're not going to make money off this pain anymore. And I think that's what's so fascinating about what Phil is going through in the film is that he's at the stage of his career where it's all pain. It's all physical pain, and it's almost like he's adjusting himself for an emotional or mental pain to kind of offset that.
Yeah. And you think about it, there's no time to deflate or relax. I love the beginning. The beginning of the movie is one of the best, as well as I get to the ending. But you have him wake in the morning, and for breakfast he has codeine and alcohol.
Yeah.
Flush it down, painkillers. And then right when he's just getting in the tub to relax, his buddies come in and, what are you doing, chilling out?
Yeah.
It's a great time to kill things. And so you have all this no time to relax, and you have Charlotte who's a barometer, like, why are you doing this dangerous sport all the time? Mm-hmm. You could quit. And he's like, I don't think, he doesn't think that way. It's almost like you blinders. You're seeing the world like this, where everybody can see around it, but you can't see it right through it.
And it tends to be this mental idea that I am a physical machine. I'm a physical beast. If you ask me to do something that, behind a desk, if you ask me to do something this way or that, I can't wrap my head around it in the same way because I'm just so used to, using my body for the work. And I think that's what he's reckoning with the entire film. And so it makes him a tragic character, still unlikable through most of the film. But the great thing about the way in which the character is written and the way in which Nolte performs it is by the end of it, even though I still don't like him, I don't want to see the outcome that I know is coming.
Yeah.
And that's the mark of great writing for a character and a great performance. And that's to a point what I do wish we would have gotten with some of the secondary characters, because I think Nolte's performance and the writing from him is so good.
Yeah, and they weave very interesting Phil's perspective that he's constantly being picked on for disciplinary actions, for the team. You're going to be doing the bench. Well, some people can't take it. You need to take it. You need to grow up.
Yeah.
And he seems like he's being the one picked up, and he's the one. They're not going to cut the star quarterback, no matter what he does for trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But if he shares a marijuana joint with Phil Eddy, well, we can get him.
Yep.
And that's kind of the funny joke is all the amount of prescription drugs and abuses to they do throughout the movie. He gets busted for one small marijuana
for
joint.
morale abuse.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because it's a nice piece of dramatic irony.
Yeah.
Because he is not, like, we know today, and I know that they knew in the 70s, that marijuana was not the evil drug that, you know, that it was positioned for decades and decades. We all
but
knew.
if you have a broken knee, you're going to pump numbness.
Exactly, yeah.
So you don't feel anything, so you can wreck it even more.
And the addiction to these supplements was really powerful to me, too, because it's almost like a point of pride that, like, I've gone through so much destruction that, like, the hull is leaking.
That's
and I need to be
that's
kept
great to
up.
bring it up. It's almost like the pride they're getting injured. They're almost getting pain. I can't sleep at night because my back hurts. It's almost like like a comparison of pride. Yeah.
And the sad thing is they've been conditioned to feel that this is something to be proud of. That this is, you know, it's a hard day's work and you should be proud of it. And what they don't realize until the point in which Phil gets in the film is that the guys who are making money off you are making a crap ton more than you are. And they're not subjecting themselves to anything. They're basically just, I have the money to throw around, I'll create the team, and you can do the damage for me. It's almost like how people talk about, you know, the guys who order the war are not the ones fighting on the front lines.
Yes. Yeah. And the coach hates him until the other guy gets hurt, and we need Nick Nolte's character to come back.
Yeah.
Now we're buddies.
Yeah.
All right. Can you pull this game for me? Yeah.
You are only as good as what I can get from you, which is what consistently happens throughout the film. And I think that's why I can't fully recommend the film, but I can recommend, if you're going to watch this movie, watch it for the Nick Nolte character, because I think his arc is the most powerful. It's one that's still an issue in professional sports, especially football today.
I think it's more prominent movie now than it was in '79.
Perhaps so because we know the problems that come with it, and we're still not doing enough about it.
Yeah. And, of course, it's very... Imagine a movie like this getting released just before football season in 1979, and the NFL is kind of okay with it.
Well, they cut people out of work with the NFL
kind of
because
blacklisted,
of their involvement.
yeah.
There was a number of people that had worked on this film in kind of supervisory roles, trying to get the authenticity correct and all those elements, and they were essentially told, like, you don't have a job back here anymore. Yeah. It's almost like we know that we're hitting the right nerve because they're affected by it.
Yeah,
you know?
And movies like that were, all the 70s, especially late 70s, was giving the middle finger to, like, a lot of established things.
Yep.
Yep, and we just don't see that enough anymore now, but it was prominent in the 70s of some way of manufacture stories that there's a man fighting the system.
Yeah, right
the anti-hero,
now...
and especially the anti-hero that you don't root for, but you realize you want a good outcome.
Yeah, it was the 70s, 90s, and into the early aughts when we still kind of had... I don't want to like denigrate it by making it like it's very straightforward, but yeah, like the man on the high castle is the man we're all trying to take down. Whereas in the 80s, it was almost ironically like to the nth degree that we were subverting a lot of what people were taking away. And that's why people who say, you know, like in the 80s, there was no politics in film. No, there was.
Oh my God!
Go
back to RoboCop.
Yeah.
Go back to RoboCop. And what? Predators, they're all on a mission. A suicide mission, pretty much.
Yeah. And so I think like there's this idea that we never got political, we never had messages in films before. We totally did. No. It's just depending on when you watch them, they were either overt messages, like I feel like this one had, or underserved messages, which is completely under the layer of sweaty people.
Before we go, Rolling Stones did a revised article on North Dallas 40 that was, I think it's one of the best written articles to kind of where we see how we see the North Dallas 40 now to how you see it back then. The person lived through both eras, and he went back to revisit it and then now explain how we just two different viewpoints of how we see it, perception now-wise, because like I said in the beginning, a lot of the stuff is the jokes are kind of cringy to understand that were inserted just to get a laugh that we kind of like out it. So very different, but also very prominent now of how we handle football players afterwards with pensions, with health care, and we're still not quite there yet. I'm going to recommend the movie. But get ready. It's not a glamour rah-rah toot-toot movie that you can sit down with the kids and go, well, that's fun.
Yeah, it was the anti-glamour portions that I clung to the most.
Yeah.
You know.
And they show you right away. He wakes up with a bloody nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's specifically the dreams that he has about failure, too. Yeah. Everyone connects with that. Whether or not you're a professional athlete or not, we've all had dreams of not pressing the button at the right time, you know?
Yeah, he catches 4 catches. He's 4 out of 5, and he's more obsessed with the one he dropped. Yeah.
Yep.
We all understand that as being a producer. Have you seen North Dallas 40?
Yeah, let us know your thoughts on the film down below. At the time of this recording, it is available for streaming on Pluto TV, as well as a number of retailers that you can rent or buy the film from. Let us know your thoughts once you've finished it, and tell us which sports film we should cover next on the show. We've got sports films on our regular show. We've got sports films on 90s with Nick. We'll probably have a horror sports film.
I won't even constitute chess. Searching for Bobby Fischer. It's a sports movie.
There you go. So yeah, tell us the one we got to cover next time.
I got a very loose interpretation of sports.
Do we count puzzle?
I count puzzle.
That's a mental sport, okay?
Yeah, it's a mental sport.
All right, thank you guys for joining us. You can find all of our film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
All right, and you can find my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere you find podcasts. And go ahead and listen to it while you watch your favorite NFL team.